Last week, we found out that ISIS is rearing its ugly head again. The Americans were warning us about it like crazy. And just like with us, sorry to say, but it's true, everyone ignored it. Here's America for you. And what about this America intel? What ISIS? What are you talking about? And boom happens. Next, America is saying that there will be more terrorist attacks. Next up, we hear about France, which is stepping up its security game. Italy and more, well, and of course, Putin and Russia, who are trying to convince their satellites and like-minded people that if it's ISIS, then they are now being controlled by ISIS from Kiev. Well, I'll be darned, I ended up in an American movie about the CIA and the FSB. Mr. Junos, it seems to me that thanks to your background and your understanding of the intricacies of the Muslim world, please clarify for us what is happening. How did it happen that in 2024 we remembered the word ISIS, and what is it? Is this a puppet being controlled by someone, or a completely realistic threat that stands in front of Russia and potentially poses a danger to the Western world?
All right, let's go through your preamble thesis by thesis. Each and everything that America warns about, every single person takes it very, very seriously, without any exception. And you were warned 2 years ago, and your military political leadership officially reassured all of you, but were very seriously preparing. At that moment, they were preparing as effectively as possible. It is not due to their desire for presentation, but rather because they were unable to publicly acknowledge it. Otherwise, the panic would have been considerably more severe. The panic was already there, but it would have been much worse. And the fact that the Ukrainian military political leadership took this information quite seriously, that's for sure, like twice 24. Similar to all the warnings that the United States of America provide to different countries, including Russia and others. That is the reason why it is a completely different story, like a secret country. And specifically at this moment, we are discussing Russia, how it perceives this information and how it tries to utilize it in a subject matter, depending on the current political situation, both in relation to the United States and everything that is occurring on the planet today, taking into consideration that currently the United States and Russia have a level of their relationship that leaves much to be desired. One could argue that it is almost at the level of the Cuban Missile Crisis in the 1960s. It is certainly not a coincidence that the Americans did it publicly. This is the most crucial moment that everyone is talking about, and it has significant implications for global affairs. Experts noticed and regular people caught on because they don't analyze deeply and only focus on their desired information. The key point is the public nature of the action. Why did the Americans choose to do it publicly? By doing so, they immediately showed their support for Ukraine. So, in no way, even with the knowledge that Russia may attempt to somehow involve Ukraine, their efforts will be futile. This is because the United States has already made a public announcement regarding this matter at the embassy level and through intelligence agencies. It is worth noting that Russia has taken this announcement very seriously, prompting their intelligence agencies to implement certain preventive measures and likely leading to significant arrests. However, it is important to emphasize that American officials have already addressed this issue. Additionally, in his speech, Bornikov partially confirmed these developments. Now let's shift our focus to the second part of your question, which is equally important and requires a thorough explanation. What do these organizations, sometimes identified as Al-Qaeda, sometimes as ISIS, and occasionally as an ISIS affiliate, truly represent? I will provide a reminder shortly. It is crucial to understand the nature and motivations of these groups, as they can have far-reaching implications for global security and stability. The very same Al-Qaeda was actually created back in the day to counter the Soviet Union by none other than the same Ben Laden. And it was all meticulously orchestrated by the intelligence agencies, right here in the United States of America. And immediately after the subject of Afghanistan and the conflict between the Soviet Union and the United States became part of the past, here, for a brief period of time, this Al-Qaeda was left without a proprietor and they were brought under control. And if you keep on going, I will be sure to remind you of a significant number of other terrorist organizations. The Kursk Workers' Party, RPK, so to speak, was created in Lubyanka, just like the Palestine Liberation Organization. She was also created on Lubyanka and this was created as a counterbalance to Turkey's RPK, the Palestine Liberation Organization, and against Israel. Why specifically against these two countries? Because these two countries were strategic adversaries of the Soviet Union in the Middle East, in that particular region. So Turkey is like a member of NATO, so it's a hot topic. And the Kursk topic, it's on the border of these three countries, Iraq, Syria, and Turkey itself, where a huge number of, so to speak, Kurds live, and who, thanks to the Soviet Union, specifically wanted to create this theme there, and they played it out on this Kurdish theme. Regarding the Palestine Liberation Organization, it was formed subsequent to the establishment of Israel, which received approval from the same Stalin, and subsequently after the leadership of Ben-Gurion and his supporters, including Golda Meir and others. In summary, Israel shifted its focus towards the West. However, a confrontation started between the Soviet Union and Israel, and naturally a conflict against Zionism and all other aspects was proclaimed. And that's when the PLO was formed. And so all these issues in the Middle East started, you could say, from the very beginning of the establishment of Israel. And this went on until 1991. In 1991, the Soviet Union fell apart. The Kurds were left to their own devices. The Palestine Liberation Organization also remained unclaimed for a certain period of time. Well, basically, there were no rules on the planet, at all. So what happened next? But over time, as you can see, the Kurds were taken under their wing and then taken away again, this time by the Americans and Western intelligence agencies. And today they're doing a completely different task there, a whole different story. But again, this creates certain problems. This is not merely against Iran itself or in the vicinity of Syria, or in Syria they are opposed to the same Bashar al-Assad, the president of Syria. However, that creates specific issues for the national security of our country. Turkey serves as our crucial ally in this particular region. Turkey, on the contrary, helped the USA and the West in solving this issue in 1991. Now I find myself face to face with this issue. Let's examine the situation in the Middle East region. The issue at hand is still unresolved. The terrorist group Al-Qaeda perpetrated the attacks on September 11th, 2001. How did this go down up to this day? Nobody knows the entire truth. Nobody knows what happened. And in the USA, they don't know the whole truth. I mean, the general public, the intelligence agencies, they know about it, of course, how it happened. However, you have to always maintain your focus on the ultimate goal. Due to this assault, I would like to remind you that there is also Colin Powell. Do you recall how he was waving a test tube and what was the outcome? Attack on. Both Afghanistan and Iraq were checked, but once again, this verification did not yield any results in the same Iraq. Currently, I desire us to objectively provide information. Let's set aside all propaganda. Due to the abundance of information today, similar to the past, in various procedures, both the Soviet Union and the United States of America, as well as the September 11th attacks, and any other topic you may choose. Propaganda consistently emerges in an overwhelming wave that prevents experts from effectively reaching the general public, although they possess greater knowledge due to the inclusion of experts in occasional instances. However, the majority of the information disseminated is from propagandists representing opposing sides. And right now I am going back to recounting and providing a detailed account of what occurred in the city of Moscow. In Moscow, this incident occurred amidst Russia's full-scale aggression and military actions directed towards Ukraine, which has been an ongoing conflict in the region. For the past couple of years, there has been this so-called terrorist attack occurring on a daily basis, which is even more severe than the incident that took place in Moscow. Terrorism, it ain't got no nationality or religious affiliation, and any normal person should condemn that shit. Here's how I, for example, condemn the terrorist war against Ukraine. I condemn it. I condemn the attack by Hamas against Israel on October 7th just the same. So terrorism should be rooted out from its very beginning. In a similar event to what took place at the same Crocus City Hall, a number of innocent people tragically lost their lives in the incident. We need to begin by stating that terrorism is indeed terrorism. Now the question arises, who is behind pulling the strings? Here's the most important question. And when we realize that there is such a dark history here, and that it will take a huge amount of time to this day, we will not know the whole truth. Just like how we don't know, for example, the whole truth about the 1999 year in Russia, all these house explosions, man. We just remember that situation that happened back then. And how did that lead to the intelligence agencies finally coming to power? Due to their need to generate an element of chaos, an element of fear, and the necessity of a strong hand in the public consciousness, they had to take action. And it's like it happened just like that. But to this day, the whole truth about how it happened, so to speak, hangs in the public consciousness, in the information field. However, has it been confirmed in any criminal proceedings? The answer is no. It remains unverified, just like the situation today. Now, regarding what occurred at the Croker City Hall, this incident took place in parallel with the bombings that occurred in Dean Progress. In Dean Progress, it is the same damn terrorist act. Before that, Kakovka, this is just another terrorist act. Bombings of peaceful cities of Kiev, Odessa, Nikolaev, Kharkov, and all the rest. It is everyday bombing. So basically, it is an everyday terrorist act. So, like, if this keeps going, it keeps going. And check out the reactions on the same side of the pond. It's like they're used to it. Every day a terrorist attack, every day a terrorist attack. However, the attitude in this context is completely different. As a result, they managed to somehow extract this particular topic and start talking a lot about it. Well, you got it right that I'm not interested in this topic, because this topic today is part of the propaganda. As it's propaganda, it lacks expertise because there's nothing to investigate. It's not worth a solid analysis. What kind of expertise can there be here? This could be one conspiracy theory, because there is no factual material. Russia will be saying one thing, the USA will be saying something else. Kiev has nothing to do with it at all. He is also compelled to provide a statement in relation to this matter. So, like, can you please explain what exactly transpired? You observe terrorist attacks like that every single day for the past 2 years. Do you at least know where your feet come from, huh? So these bombings of all Ukrainian territories, and here you have no idea how it grows. We know, let's review the facts. I don't mess with conspiracy theories, and I won't start doing that. I will simply state what immediately catches my attention, something that is founded on verifiable facts and evidence. Initially, the Americans made a public statement. Consequently, by taking this action, they offered the Ukrainians a justification for their actions, because otherwise Ukraine has nothing to do with it here. If America is telling Russia about it, where does Ukraine come into play? Which side? Russia is obtaining this information. Currently, Russia has gained an understanding that this information is in the possession of the Americans. Everyone knows Americans are listening 24/7, going all out. Since Americans listen to the whole world today, especially those who interest them, no one on the planet has such opportunities. Americans listen to them 24/7, and of course Americans pass this info on to them. And this is real information. This is not some random information pulled out of thin air. So they were taking some primitive measures. That's a different story. After receiving this information, the intelligence agencies are getting ready. They're making some decision. How can you use this for an internal resource and an external resource? What's the main thing for us today? We have a war today. We have a war today. So, like, we can utilize this. Here comes the million-dollar question. Who received this info in Russia? And at what level is this clash happening between the Kremlin towers currently? Because there are only two questions here. Or maybe it was done by forces within Russia who support the current president or those who are against him. So, I mean, is there a leak of the current president's 99-year option, resembling the manner in which he came to power? So back then, a strong hand was needed. Right now, it seems like the situation has heated up. What they understand is that by doing this, they can show the public that the situation inside Russia is seemingly out of control. And he can also, like Yeltsin, come out and say, I've done everything I could, and they can force him to do so. Some towers of the Kremlin, this is just one of the options that comes to mind because the same thing happened in '99. The second option is done by Putin's own environment, who thereby want even more, that is, using the information provided by the Americans. They understand that they won't be able to attract Ukraine here because beyond Russia, it's, so to speak, a propagandistic cliche. That's propaganda. It doesn't work. Doesn't fly in the West, doesn't fly in the USA, doesn't fly in the global South. You see it, right? So in the media, all individuals comprehend that Ukraine was not even remotely in proximity. And the third option is the Western intelligence agencies. The third option is the Western intelligence agencies. Can they pull it off? Of course they can. Did they do that to the Soviet Union? We did it. Did they control Al-Qaeda? We kept an eye on it. And structures like ISIS, all the intelligence agencies have an influence on them. those particular services that function in one context or another within these specific geographies and locations. Now check where this is located and who is working with these geographies now, who is working with the Taliban, who's working with Iran, and Americans including, and the West too including, and Russia including. So depending on the individuals who were pulling the strings and the individuals who gave this go-ahead, the individuals who can answer on this topic. Just a conspiracy theorist. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I just laid out the factual material for us to analyze. In my understanding, there can be two options: those inside Russia, or those who are for power and those who are against power. Battle of Kremlin Towers. And the third option is Western intel agencies who'd like to do it this way, from the inside, like it was during the Soviet Union, to strengthen, so to speak, shake up the domestic political network. Is this for real? Certainly it is for real. Why not? Due to the fact that they are listening 24/7, observing how they messed up on the Ukrainian front today, the borders of Russia are not as tightly controlled as they were in Soviet times. If someone believes there's an iron lock there, not true, especially from the perspective of Central and Middle Asia. And you can observe that, particularly with such a large number of migrants and all of these visa issues. It's not that hard to do, and some kind of multi-move combination, it's not difficult to do. Just today, when they present each side as they should, Americans completely disassociate themselves. Most importantly, Americans made this info public from the start. They made this info public, and now they're trying to distance themselves. In contrast, Russia is unequivocally stating that they are responsible, asserting complete control over the situation. In my opinion, both sides are lying. And where's the truth at? I don't know. But I know for sure that Ukraine is not even close by. I have no idea what it is, but it appears to me that it is highly significant.